Previously on the Deep Dive with League Troop.
But you need to find the coach that aligns to what you need and what you have for it to work. And I've just been lucky that the success that I've had has been purely because of that symbiotic relationship that we've been able to make it work.
So well articulated, brother. That's perfect. Like, it's exactly what I knew you'd say, but I wanted the listeners to hear it because, yeah, it's most of your stuff and most of any of the best coaches in the world, and I've got you right up there. You can see it. You can find it if you really wanted to find it. You can email you for it if you. But it's not about that. There's lots of intangibles that go, and that's the thing. Someone like a Jake and all these other elites you've got. Tell us about the way it looks currently before we get into some real quick fire and less full-on questions. The way it looks at the moment, buddy, the club, the setup, and what you've got going in your current coaching setup.
Yeah, so I didn't make any announcements about Team Boulder until after the Olympic trials. Like, I felt that, I'd already made the decision. Like, I left the Boulder Track Club shortly after John passed away, or maybe at the end of 2018. But my athletes still represented the Boulder Track Club, and I was just happy for them to do that. I had no desire to start a club. I didn't want a group. I had 4 or 5 athletes, and I just wanted to stay with that. I had a lot of self-doubt and lost a lot of confidence after what happened. And, I don't know, like I didn't even know if I wanted to be here. So I just sort of gone about my coaching pretty quietly and just, I don't know, just trying to work me out and where I was. And, just sort of through the course of 2019, I sort of felt like things needed to change. And particularly with my athletes, like, they were not happy with the Boulder Track Club, but they stayed with the Boulder Track Club just because I had started it and they knew that I'd been a part of it. And, I don't know, I guess I just needed to grow some nuts and just, make the choice. Like, all right, if we do this, we go with this. And, I set it up correctly and I learned from my mistakes, and that's pretty much what we've done. So the club that we've got doesn't have a board. It's not going to have a committee. It's going to be run by me. We've already got a youth team, a teenager team. We've got a community team, a coaching team, an elite team. I haven't even promoted it. We've already got over 70 members that are a part of this. I'm sure once, at the moment with obviously COVID-19, it's pointless promoting it because we don't have group training. We can't do group training. So it's not a great time to really launch this stuff. So, everything is just word of mouth at the moment. And those that have been part of BTC that had left for whatever reason have signed up, and all the kids that were part of our youth team and teenage team that my wife coaches have all joined up. Everyone that I've coached has joined up, and I've got an elite team. So I'm not about numbers. Like, I don't want to have that club of 150, 200, 250. Again, it just creates drama. I'm just all about substance and just making sure that it's organic and it's pure. People sign up. We'll have club perks that you get. You'll get an awesome uniform that everyone gets to be a part of, whether you're a 5-year-old or a 85-year-old. And we'll have club events, like once a month we'd go bowling or we'd go to a movie or we do dinner. Like, we've even done things where we get the parents to drop the kids off and my wife and I look after their kids for a movie night so that they can go out and have dinner. It's just little things like that, little things that as clubs in Australia we've been a part of, and that's what we've done. And we've never thought anything about it. Like, that's just the volunteers just do it. And I don't get paid. At BTC, I never got paid. And, here with Team Boulder, I'm not going to get paid, but that's just what clubs are. They're communities. They come together. They celebrate together. They really really immerse themselves into wearing the uniform. Like, the uniform's like a badge of honor. They're part of something. They believe in something. And, everyone that's part of it, they're in it together. So whether it's volunteers, community club members, our youth or elite, they're all part of it. And my elite know that at the end of the day, like, they're role models for this club. When they get out there, they represent our members. They represent our community. And I've always been extremely delicate in the uniforms that I created. Like, when I created the Geelong uniform, that Sammy that's on there, that was the original logo of Geelong back in the 70s and 80s. And I wanted to bring it back out again because it had substance. And obviously the blue and white strip is just for Geelong. But when I started the Boulder Track Club, we brought out the Colorado colours, and we looked at the flat irons, and we immersed that in. And, Team Boulder, has the Colorado logo, but it has me immersed in the middle of it. That was when I won Zatopek in 2002. But it has the Colorado colours, which is like navy blue, red, yellow, and white. But they're all the things that you want people to be a part of. So I think club's important. I think it you self-identify by being part of something, whether it's a running club, a football club, a cricket club. You self-identify, and that's what you believe in. Whether you're a local cricketer or a national cricketer or an international cricketer, that's what you believe in. And so I think it's cool when you can create a club that people believe in, they support, they really embody what you want. And, so with this, I'm excited about just creating a culture of acceptance, a culture of being the best that you can be, and a culture of celebrating everyone regardless of ability and age.
Yeah, you've said that well, and I couldn't agree more. Running in general, I think, needs more of it, and that's what we've obviously tried to do for the last 15 or so years, and just create communities where people feel part of something greater than themselves. And obviously, it's an environment to prosper and to be the best version of yourself, but to meet people you wouldn't normally meet, and to create a family environment that is so important. And sports a great place for that to really prosper. So you've done so.
Running's very individual, and so a lot of people run because they've had health issues and they need to run, or they run because they want to meet a friend, or they're running to support a charity, or like it's losing weight, like it's health, fitness, and it can be quite insular, and so trying to get people to break down those barriers to realize that regardless of level of ability, like we all have goals that we want to achieve. Like I'll never forget the story. I was in a bar in Manchester after the Great North Run, and a guy had asked me, what I'd run for the marathon, and I told him I'd run 2:09, and he's like, "Oh God, I can't believe it! Oh, it's amazing." I was like, "Well, what have you ran?" And he'd run like 4.5 hours. I was like, oh, I can't believe it. I've never done a 4.5 hour run in my life, and so just trying to get him to realize that he had done something that I'd never done, and that I had complete admiration and respect for that. It created a conversation and, of course, the opportunity for a couple of pints. But, it just meant that, like he didn't get to see himself as a person that was 2.5 hours slower than me. He got to see himself as someone that I looked at on an equal keel, that, he did something that I've never done, and I admired and respected that. So, in society, we all get caught up by being insular, like being behind closed doors, being a keyboard warrior, and putting our thoughts and feelings out on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. And I think we've forgotten how to realize that what you're going through, others are going through it as well. And there's greater strength in numbers. And so, if we can break down those barriers to get people to realize that, and that's why I love the Australian club system. Like, when people get involved, a lot of them don't know anyone. They just see it and they start up. And if they don't like it, they'll then go and join another club. But, most that join like it, and they end up becoming the most faithful people that there are. And then when they're going to retire from whatever level they're at, they become volunteers. They become community leaders, and they stay in those clubs for years. I mean, I love football clubs and netball clubs that have all of that. Like I said, it really embodies what the true spirit of club participation is all about.
So true, and we'll finish off on that, because the club system is one of the great things in Australian athletics, football, netball, and there's nothing better than you played under 10 somewhere and you're still volunteering as a 60-year-old behind the bar or in the canteen, or just helping out anywhere. And I think we do it well. And you probably have noticed that in the States, where it's possibly not as frequent. Like what happens when you turn 20? What happens when you get out of college and you're not an elite? Like what happens there? Just quickly touch on for the listeners, and then we'll move on to these quick fires. If I'm a 24-year-old in New York, where do I go after NCAA?
Well, it all depends. Like if you're successful, you will be recruited to another club, or you might pick up sponsorship. If you're not, there's a high attrition rate. Like a lot of those athletes just end up quitting. Their highest point is their 4 years of college, then they get a job. And then, maybe a few years later, they're just like, oh, I need to get back into running. I miss running. And then they just join a local club, so, you could join, the Hares and Hounds in New York. But it's just, there are clubs that you can be a part of. But it's just such a high attrition rate because you go from NCAAs, whether you're Division 1, Division 2, Division 3, NAI, National Junior College, and everything is about those years. Like college coaches only care about winning national championships, indoors, outdoors, and cross country. So you spend 4 years being absolutely flogged. Then you come out, and then the last thing you're thinking about is about running, unless you're a superstar and you got a contract. And then usually a lot of those athletes that are superstars don't have longevity because they've spent a lot of their life savings during their collegiate career. So they come out and, they're just trying to survive on whatever superannuation they've got left. So it's tough, but there are club support systems, but it's such a huge drop, and there are a few sub-elite teams, but those sub-elite teams come with, their own problems, right? Because they're not elite, but they want to be better than the recreational runner. So they put themselves on a pedestal to make themselves sound elite. And it just creates its own issues. Like in Australia, we don't have that crap. If you're good, you're good. If you're not, you're not. And everyone recognizes and understands that. And that just here, it's a little bit more polarizing because people could be a brand ambassador where they might get, one free pair of shoes every 3 months, but they classify themselves as a sponsored athlete. To me, a sponsored athlete is you're getting paid. I got paid well when I was at Nike. I got paid well when I was at ASICS. I got paid to stand on the start line of international marathons. That's elite. Just getting a free product just so that you can promote yourself on social media, for a brand, to me, you're a brand ambassador. And there's a huge differential between the two. And I guess that's just my gripe having been a previous elite athlete. I know what the word elite means and what it truly is. And I think that's probably some of the reasons why I struggled with some athletes that I had originally coached because they're a 3-hour marathoner telling me they're elite. And I'm like, Paula Radcliffe holds the world record at 2:15. Like, you're 45 minutes off it. Like, seriously, if you can't run 2:30, 2:35, you're not elite. And I think that just rubbed up on some women, and it's the same with men. Like, I ranked 209. Like, back in the 80s, if you broke 210, you were a superstar, and yet we're patting people on the back for breaking 215. It's like, okay, that's great, but you're not elite, and so I think it hurts their egos because they're caught up in their own little world and, how they've promoted themselves and sold themselves. And I'm just an old school guy where, I don't know, I just need a little bit more on the dossier to prove that you're a little bit better than what your performances indicate.
Yeah, bloody oath. And also, I love the way when you've gone over there, you've still tried to encourage people to work, like athletes, 15, 20 hours a week type setup,
Yep.
and not be so ultra consumed and just be consumed by the sport where it doesn't even become not even the nearest bit fun anymore. And you've spoke about this, so spend a couple of minutes on that because it's so important, and it doesn't have to be work, anything that takes them away from the sport.
20 hours a week of doing something outside of running is 20 hours less of thinking about running. So the job is to try and make sure that, young athletes aren't just 24 hours a day, 7 days a week thinking about running, because you then start to analyze, overanalyze, and then psychoanalyze. And then before you know it, you're physically depleted because of all the whole thought process of thinking about everything. So I try to make sure that at least 20 hours a week, they're doing a part-time job. It's 20 hours a week of thinking about something else. It's 20 hours a week of interacting with other people. And then it also means that that's 20 hours of not thinking about running. So you've saved yourself a little bit of physical depletion. And, I worked at Westpac Bank, sort of 97, 98, 99, which ended up, it was Bank of Melbourne, I think, at the time. And it was 20 hours a week that I really enjoyed it. I didn't have to think about running. And I was running well doing it. Then I had some success and decided, after Sydney, I was going to be a full-time athlete. And I was a full-time athlete, and I didn't really improve in my times. My times were consistent, but yet I was putting more effort, more thought, and more training in. And unfortunately, there was a negative reaction to it.
So with your coaching at the moment,
Hang on.
right?
Just having a coaching fit.
Continue on, great man.
All right, fire away.
No, that was good. I just listen. The thing about this is it's doesn't just apply to running either. Like it's everything in life as well. So what Troopy's talking about the last couple of hours, like everybody can take this out of there. I believe, especially we're in a time of our life that's unprecedented and probably it's a once in a couple hundred years type thing we're going through at the moment with the COVID lockdown. So if you can take something out of the silver lining of what we're going through and listen to what Troop is saying, it's so simple, isn't it? It's not
It is. Well, I mean, I feel like the world at the moment is very complicated. I mean, I don't think we can downplay COVID-19. I mean, people are dying and, people are sick and, people have been furloughed or they lost their jobs and, we're going to see an economic downfall and possibly recession. And, it's very hard to try and be optimistic and simplistic in this time when there's so much hardship. For me, to try and get through everything is I try to look at the glass being half full and not half empty. And I know that there are people out there that have lost loved ones. I mean, today was on Facebook and a guy that I don't know personally, but a guy that has been interacting with me on social media for almost 10 years passed away about 2 weeks ago. And I didn't even know. And he'll always interact. So like just private messages and, and just always encouraging stuff and always asking about running and questions on running. And, and even though I don't know him, I felt really hollow in that moment that I had read something that his wife had written that went up on his wall. That's how it popped up on my Facebook feed. But, if you look at Italy and obviously the USA is like leading now the cases and deaths. And, I know a lot of people that are out of work. I mean, I'm out of work. I put on running races and the earliest that I can come back is possibly August. And I really can't see that happening. And it might be October. That'll be almost 10 months of being out of work. And, people that work in cafes and restaurants are not working. And I don't know, it's like we can take optimism on a life scale, but then we also have to be extremely pragmatic with it. But, so far we've been talking about running and what running can do. And even though we've got COVID-19, I've seen more people out doing physical activity than I've seen ever. And people, like, they don't have things to do. So they're trying to look at ways that they can actually have a stress release, how they can take out their frustration. And whether it's getting on the bike or going for a walk or going for a run, I think this is going to lead to a healthier lifestyle for people. And so for me, like I said, we've talked about running and I think it's encouraging that we can talk about that and people can take out, a lot of positives that I've talked about. But I don't want to ever underestimate or downplay the seriousness and how troubling the world is right now. And so, if people can take a little bit of this, that then makes them think, okay, well, I'm going to look at now the glass being half full rather than half empty. I think that's great. But those that are looking at the glass being half empty, I honestly don't think that that's a criticism at all. Like, I mean, I don't understand their circumstances and their situation. And, my biggest concern through all of this is the loss of businesses and potentially the loss of lives. And when I say loss of lives, I'm talking about suicide. People that won't have an income, won't have money, won't be able to survive, won't be able to live. That's a real thing. And, this wasn't a real thing 10 years ago. I mean, yes, there were instances of it and it probably wasn't well spoken about, but right now this is a really big thing. And I've alluded to the situation of one of my athletes taking his life in 2018 and, that still troubles me to today. And so as we go through this troubles me, in the US, we have stay at home orders and who knows who's in their home and hasn't gone out, and it won't be until all of a sudden we can now, drop the self-isolation and we can then start to connect with people that we're going to start to find the real horrible statistics of that had nothing to do with the disease. It was a byproduct of this disease. So, I just hope anyone that's listening just understands that, as an individual that is part of the many billions of people around the world, that I understand the good, bad, and the indifferent. And, I just have nothing but compassion and sympathy for everyone at this time. And, I just hope that, through running and being able to get into running, that if you're able to come out of this, that this is something that you'll continue to do. And then just realize that there is a sisterhood and a brotherhood. There's a club system of people that will embrace you and hopefully you'll continue to do it.
Yeah, well said, mate. And let's just reach out. If this does really ignite you, make sure you reach out to somebody that you might not have heard for a while, and it might have been years. I mean, just reach out, and then we've got lots of
Yep.
avenues.
Yep. And I have made no secrets that I went through my own dark place towards the end of 2018, and the biggest thing that that I can tell people is that I shut myself off from everyone. Like I shut myself off from my own family, my own friends, people that I'm closest to, Mona, everyone. And you just spiral out of control. You become insular, and and it's hard to break out. You end up you hate everyone, and you become lonely and isolated, and it just takes a lot of time to try and get yourself back. And what I found just in my own personal journey of like trying to get myself back, having reached out to a number of people, not realizing that they were going through their own. And so I sit there getting pissed off that people that I know and friends that I know haven't reached out. They don't care, screw them. It's all about them. With some of them that I've reached out, they've gone through their own thing. And so the thoughts that I've had about them are thoughts I've had about me and others, and we have become so disconnected as a society. I used to be like the life of the party. Like I would call 40, 50 people Christmas Eve, like I would call everyone for their birthdays. Like I was always the person that brought everyone together, and, I've lost that magic. And, like I said, it's been just trying to go through my own steps of trying to get myself back. And, running's an amazing tool. It's not my jam at the moment. I mean, I'm coaching, but I'm trying to get back into my own running. My own jam at the moment is trying to reconnect with people. And obviously we can't touch, we can't sense, we can't feel, but at least through technology or what we have with Zoom and Google Hangout and Skype and FaceTime, I think it's an opportunity to reach out. So, if there's someone that you haven't heard from for a long time, please don't take it to heart. They've probably just gone through something that you've gone through, and they've become disconnected and broken as well. And it takes a big man to start reaching out to people. I won't say it's putting out the olive branch, because the olive branch means that there's been a problem and you're trying to smooth it over. A lot of these things have just fallen apart because of lack of communication, and there hasn't been a problem. So, I'd encourage people to just try and reach out to those they haven't spoken to for a long time. It doesn't have to be a long, deep-winded conversation, but just even a text message of "Hello, I'm thinking of you." And I've tried to make that my mantra once a week, to try and reach out to someone that I haven't spoken to. I mean, I've been in the States for 11 years, and I've only got myself to blame. Like I've disconnected myself from a lot of people, and it's just because I've had my own shit to deal with. I lost a running store and lost an athlete, and just life just kicked me in the nuts, and I ended up just losing my own identity. And so, as I start to work through this process of trying to get myself to feeling like I guess I'm never going to be the same person that I was, but if I can get myself back to feeling content about myself, I think that just goes a long way. So, like I said, I'm just looking forward to, despite the severity of what we're dealing with, it's an opportunity to actually reconnect and get back to basics, because somewhere along the line we all lost it.
Mate, yeah, thanks so much for sharing. That's so true. That's what I meant by keeping it simple. There is some silver linings. There's lots of people in a really bad position and dying and losing work and losing all financial independence. But the connection with family, the connection with friends, and even if it's just like we're doing today over Zoom, little things like that you can't neglect. And like you said, Troop, it's the ones that you might not have heard from for a fair while. They're probably the ones that you need to be doing that. So once a week you reach out, mate.
I do. I've just made it an effort to just send a message. I mean, like I did a FaceTime with a friend of mine I haven't spoken to for quite a while on Friday. I just sent him out a message and just said that I thought he was an awesome person, and he's a soft tissue therapist, and so he works with people and athletes every day, and he doesn't have that opportunity. And I know he's a people person, and that he would be just he'd just be struggling, and so I just sort of wanted to reach out and just say good day to him. I mean, even friends that I've got in Australia, like, close friends, it's just, there's a lot of people that, like I said, I've gone from being extremely popular to just being individualistic and, just focused on myself and insular, and certainly forgotten, I just forgot mateship, and so I was so focused on trying to make this running store the best running store in the world and coaching. And, I came to the US, in a way that, like, I was like, if I can make it in the US, I'll make it anywhere. And I just, at the time I was a big fish in a small pond, and I wanted to come to a country that didn't know me, and I wanted to prove my worth, and I wanted to earn respect. And, I've worked my ass off, and unfortunately along the way I've had to suffer some severe hardships. And, like, we lost our house as a result of this running store. And, it just, I don't know, you get so focused and so caught up on yourself, and then before you know it, you haven't spoken to anyone in such a long time. And as I said, you end up in a place that you don't want to be in, and it's hard to come out. And I think it's also hard to then come out and be honest about it. I think that's the biggest thing for me is I'm a typical guy. I don't want to admit that I've done this, and I don't want to admit that I've made bad decisions, and I don't want to admit that, like, I have put myself in a hole that I didn't think I'd crawl out of. Like, my parents didn't even know about this until about a month ago. I mean, they obviously knew for a couple of years I'd been struggling, but, I don't talk. Like, I don't know if it's a girl and guy thing, but I just know for a guy thing that's not to talk. And so my parents live in Australia, and I very rarely speak to them. And so, I opened up a little bit, like I've opened up a little bit here, and, to them, they had suspicions, but not to the extreme that, we talked about. So, I always thought at 40 going into 50, I'd have it figured out. Like at 20, you just live life, you party, right? Like you rip it up. And then at 30, you get married, you get a job. 40 is all about creating security, like building things up for your family, helping to put your kids through college, building your superannuation. In 50s, you sort of roll through it. 60s, you get ready for retirement. I'm 47 and I've still got no frigging clue. Like I don't have a house and don't have any super, and I'm trying to navigate it as best as the next person, because life's tough. It kicks you in the nuts, and it's hard to try to work out how to rebound and pick yourself up. But I know I'm the same as thousands and thousands and thousands of other people. Like I seriously thought my 40s would be amazing, and it hasn't. My 40s hasn't lived up to what I hoped. But I have hope that I get into my 50s, and what I've learned and what I've battled through in my 40s is what will make that even sweeter.
That's powerful. Very, very true. And you're not alone, brother. There's millions of us that haven't got it figured out. Don't worry about that. And we really appreciate you opening up here. And it has been just like a couple of mates having a beer. But that's what you got to do. Each of you guys listening, you just need to reach out to people. We had our Above the Shoulders mental health series last year that was so powerful. We had 4 males really open up Troopy last year on the series, and it was just so powerful, some of the stories. So we really need to reach out to friends, old boyfriends, girlfriends, family, doesn't matter who it is, old school acquaintances. Just reach out if you feel like there's something pulling you to reach out. Just send a text, or not just like Troopy did, send a text and just hook up a FaceTime chat. Like it could be a 5-minute chat. It could just be a text to say I'm thinking about you, but and you're a good person, or I remember when this happened. Those kind of things are so important and so powerful.
Well, a lot of people that are going through things, they're not going to be a lot of people that are going through things, they're not going to be the ones to reach out, and so it just, I think those that are actually okay and are going good probably just need to scroll through their phone and just look at someone they haven't spoken to for a while, or take a look at their emails and just, go through their friends list and just see who they haven't spoken to. So, I know myself, I mean, I'm not going to go into detail about, what I've gone through. I'm only obviously going to, just touch on the tip of the iceberg. But I think anyone that just tips on the bit of the iceberg, you don't have to go into detail to realize that they've gone through some hardship. And I don't think, people that are going through stuff need to open up. I think it's just having someone that knows them that reaches out. Like, I mean, that's the most important thing. And as I said, I think people just were like, oh, well, Lee, always being the center of attention. He's always the guy that reaches out. He's always the guy that organizes the party. He's always the guy that does this. And all of a sudden, I'm not doing it. I just think, well, people are like, oh, well, he's busy. He's got that, rather than just like, oh, that's uncharacteristic. Like probably should just send a message. But then on the flip side, I should be doing the same thing, right? So it's a two-way street. It's not any person that should have to be greater than the other. It's just trying to keep it equal and even. And if you do care about someone and you do have feelings for someone, then just reach out. It's not that hard. It doesn't cost you anything just to send a text or, like I said, to send an email or just make a phone call. And you don't have to go into detail. You just got to check in. And, I've said this once and I've said it 1,000 times. Like, I feel like words are cheap. Everyone says it. And I love it. Like when we have Suicide Prevention Month and everyone posts it up on their wall and, like that's all good. But how many people actually really act on it? Like be someone that's a doer and not a talker. Like actually, like seriously, like just do it. And I just can't reiterate that enough. I just see a lot of people that portray it, but they don't live it.
Yeah,
and I think, just the world needs so much compassion now. Like the world needs so much love. It needs so much communication and understanding more than ever before. And if any good comes out of this pandemic, I just hope it connects us and brings us back to basics and takes us back to where we once were.
It will. I believe it will, mate. And that's the thing. I believe everyone will remember what's important and who's important. And hopefully it slows us down a little bit, trying to take those silver linings. But what you just spoke about the last 15 minutes, there's nothing more important than what you've just spoken about then. So please take heed of that. And I really hope that people can think about people like that they might not have thought about for a few months, that they go, oh, I haven't heard from Troopy for a while, I might reach out. But yeah, it's incumbent on the person as well to reach out. How are you going day to day, and have you got things in process that your routine day to day at the moment?
Oh, look, the world's changed. I now homeschool my kids and it sucks. I hate it. But I have to do it, right? And so I got twin boys that are 9 and their nicknames are Seek and Destroy, and they make life hard. But, their world's changed too. Like they used to get up at, 7:30, have breakfast, catch the bus to school, engage with friends on the bus, have 6 different classes, have morning recess, lunch, afternoon recess, sit with friends, engage with teachers, catch the bus home. Now they're stuck at home. It's 7 days a week. They can't go out, they can't play, they can't do anything. I mean, I take them for a run once every, couple of days. It's only like a kilometre. But then they've got their crusty old father that's now got to be a teacher, and, he's got to teach them math and English and, be extremely technology savvy on the computer. And, it's hard, and I'm obviously not working. So I'm trying to cook. So I'm doing breakfast, lunch, dinner, and trying to help out where I can. Luckily my wife's got a job, and, my world's been turned upside down. So I don't really have a chance to wallow at the moment. One thing I will say is one of the greatest things that I've had through all of this has been my kids. Just to have, my boys and my daughter, and to be able to squeeze them, so hard, when times are tough, has been an unbelievable vice for me, and I'm not downplaying my wife or anything like that, but I've just been lucky with my kids, because it's just like, it's something that's far greater than me. And it's something that, like I have an obligation and a responsibility, and they're things that I take like importantly. So like I said, now that our world has been turned upside down, I mean, 6 weeks ago, Jake Riley just qualified for the Olympic Games. It was like one of the highest coaching moments of my life and one of the greatest athletic performances of his life. And 6 weeks later, there's no Olympics until 2021. There'll be no racing until at least, the latter part of the year. We can't train as a group. My communication with my athletes is over Zoom. As I said, I'm homeschooling my kids. I'm cooking. I don't think it really is a day by day thing. I think it's just like, I have to get my hands dirty, and this is a job that I need to do, and I've just got to do it. So, it's probably a good thing because I don't have to wallow in where I am. But, like where I was, Christmas of 2018 to where I am now, 14 months later, it's worlds apart, and, particularly in regards to the death of John, like, I mean, I've accepted it, but I mean, it still hurts, you know, trying to get this new club up. I mean, yeah, I wish I was still part of BTC, but hey, you know, life moves on, you know, I've got to get it right. And yeah, it sucks that I lost my running store, but you know, I've got to get ready for the next venture that pops up. And yeah, I don't have any running races to put on, but that'll come. And, you know, like with Jake, like his Olympics hasn't been cancelled. It's just been delayed. So that opportunity will come. So I feel like I'm just looking at the moment that the world has been paused, and for myself to take a breath, to not judge myself and not to judge others, and do the best thing that I can for the next 6 to 8 weeks. Hopefully get my kids to learn just one thing in the next 6 to 8 weeks. Hopefully it's not a profanity. Hopefully it's something that requires a little bit of academia. But then, yeah, like I said, just come out of it better. You know, even with my daughter, like she's 14, you know, she's at the social point of her life and she can't socialize. Like it's hard on everyone. So, you know, as I said, I've tried to remove myself from my own personal bullshit to just focus on them and put my efforts into them. And, you know, it'll be what it'll be.
That's super true. Look, yeah, a couple of things. Oh, they won't be the only kids in the world learning profanities at this stage, I'd imagine. Number one. And number two, certainly the lack of judge. There's no judging ever. And this should have been the case forever in human society. But if there's ever a stage that you're not going to judge, it's now. Yourself or others. Like, there's just no need. That's what we go back to, keeping everything simple, and just like what really matters will always come out and come to the forefront. Mate, I really appreciate that last half hour. That's super powerful. We're going to get into a few quick fires now, brother.
All right.
You can keep these.
Do I need to get another beer, or are we
get another beer. Now, what are you drinking, by the way? What do you got there?
I'm just drinking an IPA.
Am I making you a bit jealous of the Carlton draft from a bit of your old Melbourne days there, mate?
Not at all. I mean, mate, I don't think I drank that after 8. But you know, I admire the man that's still living. I admire the man that's still living his youth.
I do. I like the joy. I go for the pale ales. We've got a nice Stone and Wood from Byron Bay. Nice Stone and Wood, and there's a couple of nice pale ales now. What do you got there?
I'm a Little Creatures guy, so Little Creatures, and over here we can get Cooper's pale ale, which is good. But my beer of choice here in the US and where I live is Avery Brewing Company. So they're a big sponsor of me and my events and my running groups. And yeah, unfortunately, they just furloughed all their staff on Friday, which is disappointing. But you know, we do a Monday night fun run from there at 6 o'clock. Everyone goes out and runs anywhere from like 5 to 8 kilometers. We have 150 people that turn up. They all come back. They get a free beer. We raffle off swag, and you know, we were really set up for a great start of this year. We were going to do a guest speaker series, a movie night. We're going to run some podcasts from there. There's going to be happy hour with and whoever the special guest was. So yeah, so big fans of Avery, but like I said, back home in Australia, massive fan of Little Creatures, and the only stuff that I can get here that I don't mind is the Cooper's Pale Ale.
I do like Little Creatures. Love the pale ale there. You go and get a beer, mate, and I'll get the. You go and get a quick drink. You go and get a drink.
Yep.
So the listeners that are on, Troopy's just ducked out for a quick beer, and I'll go and get mine when he comes back. But look, what a super couple of hours. 2.5 hours of brilliance from a sensational man, a sensational coach, athlete, but just more importantly, he's a great human being. And the stuff you can take out of that would probably be a lot greater than just purely running science and what makes a 2:09 marathon, and one of the best coaches in the world, just a sensational human being. And things are a lot bigger than just running around a track or an oval a few times, I'd imagine. I'm going to jump into the quick fires now with Troopy. And the first off the back will be a running related one, his favourite session, and then we'll go for a couple of different ones, and then we'll get stuck into that. So pretty fascinating listening to Troopy as he comes back with his pale ale. He might have ducked out of the dunny, I reckon, too. We've been going non-stop for 2.5 hours here. Like I said, it was only 10 a.m. in Melbourne when we started, at 6 p.m. Colorado time. Troopy's one of only 5 Australian men to go under 2:10. He's actually gone 2:09 twice, and he's gone 2:10 2:02 once, and then he's broken 2:12 another 3 times. So obviously you got Di Castello 2:07.51, Moneghetti 2:08.16, but then Derek Clayton went 2:08 as well in the 60s, but Pat Carroll went 2:09 just the once. Troopy is as good as there's been in Australian distance running. There's no doubt about that. I'd love if he's just behind the camera, just listening to me wrap him up here too. I reckon he's just taking the piss. I reckon he's just listening to what I'm saying, all the good stuff about him. Seriously, as an athlete though, one of the absolute toughest athletes I've ever seen, and admired him for 20 years. Like I said, just his brilliance and his hardness and his grit and determination. I thought you might have been. He's going to plug himself in here. You there, mate? Here he is.
All right, I'm back.
Good work. I thought you might have just been sitting behind the computer listening to me just wrap you up for about a minute. I thought you might have been listening with and didn't want to interrupt me, just really, really praising.
No, I didn't. I went downstairs and my wife asked me, she said, "You're done?" And I said, "Oh, no, I'm still going. I've got about 10 minutes to go." She goes, "Oh, God, what are you talking about?" I said, "We started off when my mum conceived me and we're now up to when I was 23.
She goes, "Who's this prick from the peninsula talking for 2.5 hours on the other side of the world?" No, mate, we really appreciate it. I'll wrap you up a bit there, so we'll get on to the quick stuff. Favourite session ever to do? Favourite session?
Oh, monofartley. No, I'd have to say the Benson Hill course.
Fill the listeners in, because it's not as famous as the monofartley.
No, so there's a hill course that's in Ballarat that Tony Benson had created, back in the 70s and 80s, and there was basically 3 or 4 hills that you would run up, probably about a mile in length, and then Mona had basically created this 7K hill course in and around. Trying to think where it is now. It's not Sebastopol, Brown Hill. And basically, you would finish the last mile up Benson's Hill. So it was just such a tough course. And, Mona, a great cross-country runner, and he would, and there was probably, let's just say 20 to 25 hills over that 7K, and they would vary from a very short 50 meters to something that went as long as 400 meters. And so there was just a variance in changing pace that you had to do. And like we'd have 20, 30 people turn up every Saturday morning to do it. So yeah, without a doubt, I would say the hill course in Ballarat was my favourite.
Very good. I like that too. Tell me about the perfect day in the life of Lee Troop.
There's no such thing. I wish there was, but there really isn't. I mean, God, I guess if I could fast forward in 20 years' time, I'd be living on a beach. I'd get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and I'd go out for a run or a stroll and come back and have breakfast on the balcony overlooking the beach, do nothing through the day, maybe write out some programs, coach a few athletes, have lunch at the local surf life saving club, come back for a nana nap, then go out and have dinner and then go to bed. That would be the perfect life. But I don't think I've ever had a perfect life or a perfect day. Like, it's just every day's been completely different of each other. So you're making me very sad and emotional now.
No, that's a real answer. It's meant to be in an ideal universe, which doesn't even exist. So that's one of the questions there. What do you miss most about Oz, mate?
Fish and chips, like potato cakes, like dim sims, like I flake. Whenever I go home, the first thing I have whenever I go home is fish and chips. You can't miss it. I miss the beach. Being able to go for runs down around Torquay, Janjuk, just getting on those single trails and things like that. But yeah, the most thing is the fish and chips. I know that sounds weird, but they don't do it here, and the fish that they have is just like, it's terrible.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that. What about footy? You barrack for the Cats?
Barrack for the Cats. I do watch, so I subscribe to the AFL channel, and I do watch that. So many late nights, particularly when the Cats are playing at 3 a.m.
I'm also a Cat man. Favourite ever player, Troopy?
Favourite ever player. God.
We had a good era in that early 90s. Buddha, best.
Yeah, I mean, senior, look, there's been so many great players, but this will probably, I don't know, this might be a little controversial, but I think Gary Ablett Jr. is one of the best ever players, and it's not because of his mercurial sense that he has on the football field, but it's also how he is off the football field. And I remember meeting him as a young player, and to be the son of a legend and the pressure that comes with that, like, I don't know, the way he conducts himself on and off the field, I admire. And I remember when he went to the Gold Coast and many people in Geelong were upset. I was like, the man had given us a flag, he'd won a Brownlow, he'd won a best and fairest. Like, if we never got anything else for the rest of my lifetime, I was content. And that was, I thought he deserved to head away and to make his millions. And I think it's just awesome that he's back at the Cattery to see out the end of his career. So I thought, I still think he's one of the best players to play the game. I mean, when you've got to compare it up against the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, I mean, Dermot Brereton was one of the toughest players to play the game. Dipio Domenico was obviously the same. I mean, Bruce Jewell. I mean, like, the list just goes on. But, just to look at someone on and off, I think he's an unbelievable player. I mean, my favourite player growing up was Mark Yates. For the Cats, I had number 21. But yeah, I'd go with Junior.
I think Junior's the best mid we've seen, but Mark Yates, I love him. Tough, very tough halfback flanker. Tell me, you get stuck on a desert island, Troopy, apart from your family, give me 3 things you'd take.
People or items?
Apart from your family, sorry, items. 3 items. Yeah.
Beer would be one.
Good answer.
Running shoes would be 2. And am I allowed to take the internet so that I can talk to my family?
I'll give you that one.
You'll give me that one. Well, if not, I would. I'd definitely take my running shoes. I'd beer, and then I would take. I won't say what I was about to say, but let's just go with a book.
A book, good answer. We'll keep that one G-rated. Good work.
Yep.
Very good. Look, that's a tough one, but I like it. I reckon we've got so much in common. It's ridiculous. What's the future hold, brother? I know you're not a you can't tell the future, but tell me what the future holds over the next 20, 30 years. I think you touched on
for me or the world, or
for you, mate. For you.
For me, my kids, and Jack's just come in. I'd like to say hi.
Is that seek or destroy?
This is destroy.
Did I destroy? You work on something.
The what? No, I don't. He's not in here. So for me, obviously I've got the Olympics coming up next year, which I'm excited about, and I hope that I get to coach a few more Olympians. I hope I get to bounce back from a business sense. So having lost the running store still pains me to this day and hurts me a lot. Just being a bear with a sore head, I want to be able to do that, and I want to be able to set my family up for a prosperous future. I would like to have my kids be able to go to college and get an education and achieve things that I didn't achieve, and hopefully be content. So if I'm able to do that in the next 20, 30 years, I'll die a happy man.
That's a great answer, mate, and a real great way to finish. I'm glad I got to meet Destroy there on the other end of the line. It has been one of the longest Zoom chats or definitely our first ever Zoom podcast. So I appreciate your patience. What time is it now? It's been nearly 9 o'clock Colorado time. Yes.
Yep, it is. What have we got? Yeah, 8:42. So
we really appreciate you coming online with us, Troopy. Is there any lasting words, great man?
I'm just hoping you're going to edit the shit out of this, because otherwise it's going to be an extremely long podcast that are going to put people to sleep. So
it's my first time on the Zoom as well, so I'm definitely a bit out of my comfort zone. I prefer just being face-to-face on the mic. Now, Tommy will do his best to edit it, but we might do a 2-parter or a 3-parter, and in the best soap opera type setup, just have everyone hanging on every word and just waiting for part 2 and part 3, great man.
Yeah, well, this might end up becoming a series. So, that's the wife in the background. She's looking for the cat.
Love it,
this is Rick.
G'day, Dale.
So, yeah. Yeah, this might end up being a 6-part series. So,
It's been good. Now, it was 6-parters, all good. I will leave it there. But thanks so much. And Troopy is one of the greatest ever, as I mentioned when he went to get a beer, one of the greatest ever Australian athletes, and he deserves all the recognition he gets. And I agree. I definitely believe he's in the top 1 or 2 coaches in the world right now. So, well, thanks, Troopy, and listeners. Make sure you do something today that's going to make you much, much better tomorrow.